I'm in a relationship with a woman I really love, but her hospital is constantly understaffed. The stress means that when she comes home after a 12-hour shift, she is mentally exhausted for the day. My job is not nearly as stressful, but I still have bad days. The trouble is that if our bad days overlap, she cannot support me the way I can support her. Seeing me emotional on these days stresses her even more, partly because she is already exhausted and has nothing to hold on to herself, and partly because she understands the situation and wants to be there for me, but cannot summon the energy in the moment. I have spoken to a friend whose wife is also a nurse, and he felt similarly with his spouse. As a man, I feel obligated to always provide a sense of stability and strength that others rely on. When I show emotional distress, it undermines that image, and it feels like I am pressured to choose which days it is acceptable to be upset. I know this is not healthy long-term, but I am unsure what else I should do. For those who have been in this situation but are no longer, and whose relationship is ongoing, what helped fix it? For those currently in this situation, how do you cope with emotional unavailability? Story 1. It is not a case of relying on your partner or not relying on her at all. Everyone needs emotional support from their partner, but it is best if you have a wider network of support too: family, friends, a therapist. Spread out the support so it does not live all on her shoulders, but never be afraid to lean on her if you need. Support can take many forms. Sometimes just being sad or stressed together can be meaningful. You do not always have to solve each other's problems. You can just validate each other without getting into the details. As a man, you are not obligated to always provide stability and strength. You get to have bad days and you have emotions too. More broadly, your being a source of stability and strength ought to be permanent and not dependent on having a good or bad day. Being down in the dumps in the evening does not negate the stability and strength you provide in general. Story 2. I suppose my question is, why would I need to schedule my bad days? If I am having a bad day, I am having a bad day. I will choose one of my dozen go-to methods for de-stressing, assess why I am having a bad day, accept the situation, and move on. My therapist gave me a few methods, and the others are my own, such as golfing, gaming, going for a walk, and going to the gym. I learned early on that no one has the time to deal with their problems and yours. I took that same lesson into my marriage. Life is difficult a lot of the time. Bad things are going to happen and bad days will come. Relying on someone else to get you through that is a recipe for disaster because you are putting your mental health in someone else's hands. Story 3. My wife is the same. She is emotionally unavailable. I don't think it is a nursing issue, as it is more complex and nuanced than that. It is like compartmentalization. My wife is also suffering from chronic pain, so her cup is always empty. I make sure my cup is as full as it can be. I know I can rely on my wife for support if I need it, but I also know she cannot always give me the support I need. I would be interested in knowing what sort of emotional support you need from her. What has brought all this on? Has she said anything to you? My life got infinitely better when I went to the gym with a workout partner. It helps me have an outlet so I can be better placed to support my wife. My bad day, my work colleagues are being difficult. My wife's held people's hands as they died, got punched by a drunk, relatives shouting at me. Everything hurts. She did not talk about COVID, but I see it on her face. Her gift is helping people through the worst days of their lives. I only hope that when I need a nurse, I get a good one like her. My gift is doing all those little things that her patients cannot do for her, but I can. I am a huge advocate for helping friends out, so just reach out if you need to. Story 4. You need to rely on more than just your spouse for emotional support. Find a friend, a family member, or a therapist to talk to. It sounds like you both have very demanding jobs. Story 5. I am also dating a nurse. I honestly think a big part of it is losing the idea that you always need to be the strong one for her to lean on. When one of us has a rough day, the other does their best to provide comfort and support. If we both have bad days, sometimes we can commiserate together, but sometimes we both just need some space to process our own problems without taking on someone else's as well. If the idea that you always need to be strong and not emotional is coming from her, I think you need to have a frank conversation about how that is not realistic and it is okay to have a rough day and feel sad sometimes. If it is coming from yourself, you need to confront whatever internalized stereotypes are making you feel that way. I am guessing it is some combination of the two. Either way, therapy could be helpful. Also, when you say you get emotional, how are you expressing that? There are many productive and important ways to process negative emotions, and some that are not as reasonable. Your girlfriend might be objecting to inappropriate, scary, or mean things you do when you are upset, rather than the sadness itself. Story 6. I can only share how it was growing up. My mom was a nurse, and my dad was a social worker in the psychiatric ward of the same hospital. Growing up, my parents took turns at the dinner table talking about their day, the good and the bad. But I know that if something especially bad happened, they would also talk when I was in bed. My dad later explained that communication was always very important to both of them. It helped that they worked in the same hospital and knew many of the same people. He also said that sometimes they vented to their respective coworkers and friends so as not to overwhelm each other or disrupt daily life with a child and still keep it from showing to me. I loved the dinners because of their conversations about their day and what happened. I learned a lot. They always made sure to explain rules and procedures and answered all questions in a way that was correct but still kid-friendly. I think what really made them great at communicating and staying together was that they traveled in Asia by backpack for 1.5 years and learned to absolutely rely on and trust each other. Story 7. Married to a nurse, over 20 years together. There can be days when we do not see each other, especially since she works the night shift. It helps to maximize the time you are both together and focus on your own interests and hobbies when you are not. Communication is key. I try to be mindful of my spouse's schedule. I usually handle things after they have had sufficient rest. If I am upset about something, I share it. That does not mean it gets fixed immediately, but eventually we address it. Do what you can to ensure your nurse has a safe place to rest and recover. When they do, they will be able to provide the partner support you are looking for. Story 8. I dated a nurse for around 3 years who also had anxiety. She struggled from time to time as her energy levels were often sapped from her shifts. To be honest, I got more into running and doing my own thing while she slept in during the weekend. It helped her have space and time to herself and gave me a way to support my mental health. In hindsight, I relied more on friends and family as an outlet instead of her. Over time, she grew more distant due to several factors. We broke up, but her colleagues told me she felt my running was taking too much of my time. Why this was a problem, as I ran when she slept, I have no idea. I have moved on since then, as has she, and I wish her all the best. Honest advice. Speaking to friends and family is a good alternative. If you are based in the United Kingdom, Andy's Man Club is an excellent place for emotional support. Be aware, though, that you have to be okay with your partner not having the headspace for your problems. Compassion fatigue is definitely real. You have to take more ownership of your problems and find an alternative outlet. I used to have virtual meetings with a friend where we would chat about what was on our minds. Unfortunately, some healthcare workers put so much time, effort, and energy into helping people, often with little positive feedback, that they become disenchanted. These roles are some of the lowest paid jobs with the highest levels of responsibility and accountability. One mistake or issue can cost a life or lead to being struck off. How nurses do it, I have no idea. Story 9. I think we are all human, and none of us should rely solely on one other person for comfort. Expand your network. Learn to time conversations about things that require emotional effort. If you feel you have to provide emotional support when you do not have the capacity, then set a boundary. Obviously, the way I am saying this sounds much simpler than it actually is, and I acknowledge there are assumptions or expectations at play. But if it is making you feel bad, why carry on like that? Story 10. She realizes all of this and wants to be there for me. The good news is that you are in a relationship where you can talk about these things, and she truly cares for your well-being, so it is not an intentional one-way street. As others have said, friends and family are good support networks too. Personally, I catch up with my parents once a week, where we unpack the week and talk about both small and big picture topics. This does not mean ignoring your girlfriend, but letting off steam until there is a better time for a proper deep and meaningful conversation with your girlfriend. If you eat dinner together, maybe put some music on and have a chat while eating rather than watching television. This way, you can talk about your days in hopefully low-impact ways and just enjoy each other's company and conversation, which ideally helps you both unwind. It does not always have to be heavy conversation and can be part of relaxing for both of you. For the heavier topics, pick a time when you both have time off for a deeper kind of conversation where you can be more present. Story 11. It sounds like you may need to get professional help. I relate heavily. My wife worked in hospice and I had a comfortable job. Having bad days felt like adding insult to injury for her. The best way I could help her was to make sure I was the best version of myself too, so I went to therapy. Getting true help from a therapist, coach, or counselor will help you as much as it helped her. There are many resources available depending on your availability and income. Story 12. While I am nowhere near the objective stress levels of people in the medical field, I have a high-stress job compared to my wife, but she has a much lower stress tolerance than I do. Honestly, I have found alternate coping mechanisms and try to maintain open communication with my wife when I am having a tough time. I do not expect her to help bear my burdens, but often just telling her that it has been a hard day helps. We have a child now, so sometimes it gets twice as hard for both of us, but we make time to support each other to relax and relieve stress. It helps that we both have healthy hobbies and are comfortable taking turns caring for our son when the other needs to rest. It is not always perfect. We both tend to avoid telling each other when we are struggling. I especially find it difficult to share when I am having mental challenges. I still hold a bit of the old school mentality of if I grit my teeth and bear it, it will go away. But this approach can become overwhelming over time. It is a continual area for improvement for both of us. But because we are aware of it, we try to support each other as best we can. Story 13. I have been dating a labor and delivery nurse for 8 years. It is a high-stress job. I work in a prison, which is also high stress. We do our best to support each other. We both understand what comes with working in a high-stress job. It is not for everyone. Story 14. You need more than just your girlfriend for support. She should not be your only emotional outlet. Use your friend's network when you can. Also, you both need to be able to have bad days. I went through a period where every day was difficult for months. My wife works in a place where she encounters the negative side of humanity weekly. We made sure to leave something for each other every day. However, as mentioned, we both also relied on our friends for help, and my wife attended therapy for the most challenging parts of her job. You both need to ensure you are not exclusively sharing your emotional struggles with each other. Story 15. On a good day, maybe on a vacation together, come up with a bad day routine. For example, say it's Chinese tonight and order your favorite foods. Find a way to both vent. Then just decompress by watching TV or doing something relaxing. Make it a tradition so that you both know when it is a bad day for each other. Routines help. Story 16. You need to talk with her and find times to vent and have these discussions. This will affect common issues in a relationship where you may not feel there is a right time to address them, so you bury your feelings and build resentment. Others are correct that your emotional support system should extend beyond your spouse, but both of you need to find what works best for you. Story 17. As a male nurse, I definitely understand where she is coming from. I experience a lot of stress, drama, chaos, and sometimes even violence, so I just want peace at home. I tend to shut down and avoid it entirely, which I know is not always healthy. I also understand your perspective. This is why I am not in a rush to date or be in a relationship at the moment. I give all of my energy, empathy, and compassion to my patients and have none left to give at home until I recharge. I imagine she feels the same way, and many of my coworkers would agree. I wish I could offer easy advice, but it really comes down to catching her on a good day, ideally after a few days off the shift. Give her some space and let her decompress before approaching her with your concerns. If she cares, she will give you your time. You just need to let her have hers first. Story 18. If you feel like you are not allowed to express yourself in your relationship, you need to talk with your partner about it. We can only suggest that you talk with your partner. If their job is severely impacting your ability to have a relationship and express emotions, they need to know. It is a significant sign of burnout in medical professionals when this affects their partners, and they may not even realize it. Talk with your partner and explain that you understand the stress their job places on them. However, you feel like you are never able to ask for support when you are struggling or stressed because they are always running at high levels of stress. People in medical professions are incredibly overworked. They often operate in fight or flight mode most days because of how demanding and stressful their job is. They need to have this brought to their attention. Let them know exactly what you feel. Just communicate with your partner. Story 19. I'm not a nurse, nor married to one, but you both need to have other people you can share the emotional load with. I know this is easier said than done. As it is, the two of you simply don't have the capacity to fully support each other by yourselves, and that's normal. It's natural and healthy to need emotional support from other friends and family members. Please lean into that. She can't be everything at all times, and neither can you. When your girlfriend is too overwhelmed, or when you anticipate she'll have had a long or tiring day, try reaching out to someone else. And vice versa. As lovely as it is that you always want to be strong and emotionally there for your partner, it's a lot of work to constantly prioritize someone else's feelings, and it's okay to choose yourself when you need to. Story 20. My ex-wife was a nurse and her hospital was staffed, yet she still exhibited this behavior. We both work in healthcare at the bedside, both in a hospital but different disciplines. I worked 5 days a week. She worked 3 12-hour shifts. I was always reminded that she had just worked a 12-hour shift the day before, and I had to make her day easy by being nothing other than a happy person. She was unable to cope with her job stress and took it out on me. Story 21. Hi. My wife and I are nurses, so I can empathize with your situation. Some days my day was the worst and some days hers was. There are multiple angles to this complex question. For us, most of the time, just venting to someone who fully understands the frustrations, anger, helplessness, or sadness of a nurse's day was already a big help, even before the other answered. Just being listened to was a big relief and didn't take a lot of mental or emotional energy. Being there was a major part. We would usually go one after the other, sometimes in a whirlwind of stories at the same time, laughing at the absurdities of some situations. Some days, one of us would need more. The reality of nursing can be quite difficult, and on those days, one of us would have the spotlight a bit longer, needing more than just to be heard for a while. Some situations can be truly terrible and drain the nurse of everything she has to give. On those days, the supporting person has to find it within themselves to support, listen, rationalize, and be the pillar in that moment, even if it means putting themselves on the back burner for the night. On those nights, what helped me was focusing on her pain, her distress, her story. It helped me realize that my day was not that bad after all. After the high emotions, we would decompress by going for a walk outside, having a beer or something light like that. After a while, if I saw she was up for it, I could share a part of my day that was difficult or whatever was stressing me out but kept it short. I have to say that those days are not common. I don't know how experienced she is or how often those days come, but she needs to develop the skill to leave work at work. It's not always easy. If every single day she works is terrible, maybe she needs to find another department where she can thrive and protect her mental health in the long run. I have seen enough nurses compromise their mental health to know that you need to be careful and find the right place for yourself. I hope this helps. I could go on because it is not always easy. Finding this balance requires a lot of communication during those emotional moments and outside of them, so you know what both of you need and can give. Both of you need to be there for each other, but sometimes it can't be at the same time, and that needs to be okay. Story 22. She will be there for you, but only up to a certain extent. She is meeting her needs by decompressing after those long, stressful shifts. You need an outlet of your own. That way, you can be your full selves with each other. Story 23. My mother is a nurse and was for most of my childhood. Dad did as much around the house as he could when she was on shift. He also made sure my sister and I left her alone for a good hour after she got home. To my mother's credit, she always did her best to leave work at work and never let it keep her from being a great mother. Story 24. I don't think this is sustainable long-term. You will not be able to rely on each other for emotional support if you're both always stressed. You both need to work on managing your stress individually and avoid bringing it home, so there can be times when she is there for you and you are there for her. Another option is finding emotional support from your friends or parents. You need to lean on some of them to help spread the stress and engage in activities that provide stress relief before it becomes an issue. For example, I either work out or deep clean when I am very stressed. Story 25. My wife works as a nurse at a methadone clinic and is also studying to get a bachelor's degree in healthcare administration. She requires a lot of effort on my part, especially with us having 2 children together. I have taken on the role of caring for our home and children while supporting her emotionally. She does the same for me. My oldest child is from a previous relationship, and since he turned 18, he has caused a lot of drama and emotional challenges. It has been difficult for me, but she is there for support. I do not know how I would handle it without her. We communicate openly with each other. We do not let ego interfere with our love and support. I admit there are days when I have to set aside my feelings to help her because she needs it more than I do. However, I have a lot of experience from previous relationships where I never had the opportunity to express my feelings or needs without causing conflict. So, postponing my own needs for a day or two for the woman I love is not a problem for me. Story 26. My wife is a police officer. It is somewhat similar. There is a greater issue here. You should not depend on her for your emotional regulation. Story 27. Take this with a grain of salt because I am sharing experiences that may not be the same as yours. I have a friend who is one of the first people I go to for support, and she works in the laboratory doing 12-hour shifts. When she noticed I was avoiding talking about my problems on her bad days, she told me that her bad days do not mean I have to hold back my bad days. I can let her vent and she can let me vent. If we are up for it, we can go grab a drink or dinner, and if not, we can express our frustrations on the phone. Admittedly, this is different because we are not significant others, and for some people, the type of support they get from significant others and friends is different. But I think maybe you could talk to your girlfriend about this on a good day and work out a way you can both get the support you need from each other. Maybe you always listen first, but she makes time to listen and support the same night. Maybe you both figure out a couple of activities that you can do together to support each other. Maybe you both give a 1 to 2 sentence summary of why your day was rough and let whoever had the tougher day go first, or let them decide whether to go first or second. Obviously, I do not know you or your girlfriend, and I do not have the same experience as you in this case, but hopefully something like that might help. Either way, good luck. Story 28. I can only talk about my experience, and I hope it provides some insight. I work 12-hour shifts, and my girlfriend works a regular 9-to-5 job, which is also stressful for her. Sometimes I don't have the energy, and sometimes she doesn't. Communication is key. Being open and vulnerable is essential. I never want my partner to feel burdened because of me. It took some time for us to figure out what works for us, as everyone needs different things. Speaking from my line of work, everyone I work with has a different approach to handling stress and how it affects their relationships. I hope this is helpful and not complete nonsense, as I just finished my 12-hour night shift and am about to rest. Story 29. My brother in life, you need a mental health counselor and a better coping strategy. If your social circle is small or non-existent, expand it. Reach out to your family and friends. Make sure you are getting enough exercise, especially on the days you feel the worst. Try to exhaust yourself so that by the time she gets home, all you want to do is lie around cuddling and watching a movie. When she asks how you are, tell her, "It was pretty rough, but I did XYZ. Hopefully, tomorrow will be better. How was your day?" If her day was extremely stressful, she is tapped out. You cannot get water from a dry well. Story 30. A few ideas. 1. Do you have a good friend who would be willing to take a phone call on a day you're feeling bad, so you could vent to them for a bit when your significant other isn't able to listen to you? 2. You say you can't admit that you're stressed when she's already stressed. Does she feel the same way when she comes home and sees you're already stressed? If not, do you feel this is unfair? Do you two want to have a conversation where you brainstorm a compromise? If she's not aware that this is bothering you, she can't help you. 3. Are you willing to live like this long term? Obviously, no one likes giving an ultimatum, but saying something like, Listen, I can't live the rest of my life with someone who can never take care of me like the way I take care of them. If this specific nursing position at this specific location is what you want to do for the rest of your life, I don't think we're compatible long term. Might be the truth you have to tell her. Story 31. Support yourself. Your partner should be an amazing supplement, not a necessity. Personally, I go for a walk or drive in nature when I am stressed or sad and listen to music. This takes the stress off your partner to help you. If she wants to support you, she can do what she can. This should go both ways. No one needs the other, but you can still support each other. Story 32. What is interesting to me is how much the men have to be careful around the women who are nurses. I am a nurse myself and also a man. While my wife does quite a bit around the house, especially when I am working 12-hour shifts, I am expected to help out when I am awake between 2 consecutive shifts. I could not imagine bringing work stress home with me frequently. Story 33. I totally feel this. When my wife was working in the hospital, I felt that no matter what I did or said, I couldn't make it better. So one thing I learned to do is listen and support. This has improved a lot since she went outpatient and has relatively normal hours now, but I definitely still have those tendencies. That being said, regardless of your job, it's not helpful to compare hardships with anyone. What might make a day bad for you wouldn't even affect your partner, and vice versa. There is no trick. You don't need to schedule your bad days, but observe the environment. If you can tell she's stressed, then maybe take a minute and be present for her so that when you're feeling stressed, she can reciprocate that feeling to you. Also, therapy helps 100% no matter what situation you're in, so I would look into that too. Story 34. Do you not have friends? It is unreasonable to think your partner is the only source of emotional support you have. Build a community or speak to a professional. Story 35. Your girlfriend should not be your only source of support. Friends should be able to step in and perhaps even a therapist. Story 36. Your spouse should be the single most important source of happiness and emotional support in your life, but not the only source of these things. Let's work from the assumption that you are otherwise satisfied in the relationship and want it to continue. The problem is that you need occasional support and you are not getting it because your wife is unable to provide it. One option is for the two of you to find a way to reduce her work stress, which may mean looking into a different nursing job. If that is not viable, you need a way to get support or de-stress from your own difficult days that is not dependent on your wife. This might mean reaching out to friends and family if you need to talk about work challenges, or it might mean taking time to do something to manage the stress. Story 37. From my perspective, her days are much worse on average. I may dislike working with the public, but their situations are far more stressful. The main difference is definitely our sleep schedules. Usually, when I finish work, she is just starting hers, so we only have a little contact during the few hours after her shift when I wake up. We also schedule our days off to align. Story 38. Hey, male nurse here. I dated an anxious girl who was in medical school and didn't understand my life and schedule. She doesn't have the mental bandwidth after 12 hours of dealing with everyone else's problems. Family, patients, doctors, other nurses, allied health professionals, social workers, and herself trying to stay physically and mentally healthy for work. Who fills her cup? All she wants is to lay around in silence and peace in your arms with a nice cooked meal. Imagine being in a war zone for 12 hours, dealing with all types of personalities, critically thinking through life and death situations, using therapeutic conversation and de-escalation for angry and psychiatric patients, offering an ear to someone at the hospital with no family coming in, then coming home to someone who wants more of your energy. You're only seeing the tip of the iceberg when you speak to a nurse. What you need to do is ask when it's okay to talk about your problems. It might not be right after work. It might have to be on a day off. Even then, ask her when is a good time, maybe not on the first day off but the second. It's not that healthcare workers are emotionally unavailable. We're burned out and need someone to make us feel safe. I think this is why healthcare workers often date other healthcare workers. We spend all day in the same place and understand each other. I hope this helps. I work very hard to protect my peace and energy outside and after work. Healthcare is brutal. If you're not strong-minded and taking care of yourself, chances are you'll spiral down and leave the profession. I remove all energy leeches who don't want to fix their problems. Some people only want to vent about their problems and never actually fix the underlying issues. To see this in patients and at home would be dreadful. Not saying you are like that, but it could very well push her away. Story 39. Not answering, just want to say I'm sorry. Men's mental health matters too. Hope you find a solution to get along better with the two of you and, hopefully, more outlets. Story 40. Learn that she cannot support you emotionally. Reach out to others or find your own ways to cope with stress. I am in a similar situation where my wife is amazing, but external emotional assistance is a hindrance to me. I simply need time to think about things to feel better. My spouse also struggles with emotional issues and is not as stable, so I know I have to be there for her regardless of my own circumstances. Some people are not built to deal with struggles as well as others. That does not make them less than, but you will have to recognize you may be in a situation where you need to find your peace elsewhere. Story 41. There are some people who will not have the ability to emotionally support their partners as much as we would like. You really have two choices. Learn to cope or end the relationship to find someone else. Seek therapy. Find your escape. Nothing addictive or destructive, please. Find your hobby and learn to meditate. Story 42. Not in a relationship, nor do I have much experience in them personally, so you can take this or leave it. Just trying to help. For me, I try to keep my work life and personal life separate as best I can. In many jobs, you can do this where after you leave work, you don't have to worry about what is going on there and can just focus on your personal life. If you have a job like this, then you need to get into the habit of leaving work issues at work. If you have a job like mine, where unfortunately they will call and bother you about non-emergencies when you are not even working, and where the job is both toxic and stressful, then it's pretty difficult to leave it at work. I still make an effort to do so. If you're just having a bad day because of usual annoyances like stubbing your toe or forgetting to do something, I understand. Some advice I would give is that on days your wife comes home exhausted, focus on doing things for her to make her happier and help reduce her stress. For example, prepare a bath for her some evenings the way she likes it, unless she prefers showers after being at the hospital for a long time. Maybe offer a back or foot massage while watching a show you both enjoy. Focus on cooking a meal for her or getting takeout she likes. Or do certain chores you know she dislikes. Trying to make her feel better and more comfortable might also help you feel better, because even though you are both struggling, doing these things can improve her mood, which might help you too. Ask if you can vent to her while giving her a massage. That way she can relax and listen to your problems. Some sort of compromise. I know how much it sucks to want to talk to someone you trust and open up to, but they just can't or don't want to. You may have to turn to other friends or family, but you can't always do that, as it might seem like you are just using them to vent. Maybe check if your job offers health insurance with counseling or therapy, where you could talk to a professional occasionally if you are comfortable with that. If not, you could try writing down what's bothering you to let it out. Later, when your spouse is feeling better, you could share it with them. You could also consider getting into a hobby that lets you channel your feelings into something else. For example, exercise if you are angry. Get a punching bag and hit it to release steam while getting a workout. Go for a walk in your neighborhood or drive somewhere and walk. Invest in a bicycle and ride around to burn off steam. Play sports with friends. Dedicate some time to action video games like Doom to vent your anger on virtual demons. Finding an activity to release frustrations, or hobbies like pottery, painting, drawing, or reading could help reduce stress. You can get a library card from your local library for free access to many materials, which supports the library as well. Or you could look for chat rooms or online groups where you can talk to people if you are okay with sharing your problems with strangers anonymously. These are the best ideas I could come up with on short notice. Hopefully, it helps you or maybe someone else dealing with similar situations. I also know how much it sucks wanting or needing to talk to someone about something important but never getting the chance. For me, since I am not in a relationship, others do not really have any obligation to be there when I need to talk. I have to make peace with that. Story 43. I dated a paramedic for 5 years, and I, like you, have a lower stress job that was her outlet for venting from time to time. Story 44. My wife is a school nurse and part-time hospice nurse. She does not have 12-hour hospital shifts, but often has stressful days helping sick children, dealing with angry parents, frustrating coworkers, and paperwork. She is frequently exhausted after work. We decompress by watching favorite television shows or movies together in the evening. It also helps to be a good listener and contribute to household chores so she does not come home to a mess. Cooking and kitchen cleanup help a lot too. Story 45. Before I start, I will acknowledge that it is not fair for anyone to have priority in having a stressful day. I understand that she is a nurse and may deal with death frequently, but her bad day is not a higher priority than your bad day. It is not a competition, and there should not be a hierarchy of who gets to have the hard day. One thing I suggest for both of you is to ask your partner, is this an issue you want to vent to me about? Or is this an issue you want me to help you fix? Alternatively, you can tell your partner, I had a difficult day and I just need to vent. I do not need you to fix it. I just need you to listen and empathize with me. I have found that often we get frustrated when what we want does not align with what the other person is naturally inclined to do. If someone wants to vent and you want to help, they do not get to vent. If someone wants help but you are just listening, they feel like they are not getting the help they need. It may feel unnatural, but asking what they want or declaring what you want from them will help you give them what they need in the moment. Alternatively, start journaling. I often find that if I journal my thoughts before talking to my partner, I can remove much of the extra noise that builds up in my mind throughout the day. Think of it like clearing the cache from your web browser, so only important information remains. Basically, you are dumping trauma into a journal and filtering out the noise when you talk to your partner. Suddenly your trauma dump becomes a trauma sprinkle, where you might say, Steve at work is frustrating, and then laugh about how bad Steve is. Sometimes it is serious, but sometimes it is not. I also suggest that your wife journals as well. What is happening now is that your wife is not journaling after a tough shift and is trauma dumping on you. When you feel the need to trauma dump on her, both of you are dumping on each other, which does not help anyone. You are frustrated by things you cannot control and are just venting. I am not saying this fixes everything, but it helps to get your thoughts out of your head before stressing each other out. However, it is not fair that she can trauma dump on you and you are not allowed to trauma dump on her. Story 46. I dated an emergency room nurse for a few months. She was the most emotionally closed-off person I have ever been with. She was not kind at all and had no room for hearing any vulnerability from me. It did not last long. I ended the relationship. Story 47. My wife was very burned out working in the pediatric intensive care unit. She stayed longer than planned because they paid for her to get her nurse practitioner degree. In a surprising but helpful twist, right when she graduated, they were downsizing and offered a buyout. She received 1 week's pay in severance for every year worked, which was 9 years. I had been telling her to quit before because it was very bad for her mental health. Once she left, it got much better. Story 48. Married a nurse. A month after our wedding, she shut off her emotions completely unless she needed something. She drained me until there was nothing left. I lasted 1.5 years. Story 49. My wife has been a nurse for over 10 years. I have been with her since before she went to nursing school. From her perspective, which I have heard many times, some people cannot do 12-hour shifts. She cannot do them long-term. Many nurses leave because of how emotionally draining it can be. They either become numb and stop feeling, which can make them a bad nurse or an average doctor. Few can hold on for decades and remain compassionate. From my perspective, a 12-hour shift is long when life goes on around those 12 hours. It wears you down, and if you cannot at least recover on your days off, what is the point? As a man, unfortunately, your job is mostly to listen quietly. Rarely does anyone care what we feel. It is difficult, but I think society is built to be rather harsh toward men who share their feelings, so we have to be very intelligent and careful when we do, especially if the feelings are unpleasant. I am sure I will soon hear that my feelings are wrong. Your close friends and partners should care about how you feel. Story 50. Yes, I have been there and done that. She was emotionally unavailable most of the time because of her work. I basically became a much more independent person and learned to entertain and soothe myself. I started playing guitar, using a bit of social media, and took up painting. These activities are not for everyone. I think being a partner who is emotionally unavailable because of their work is actually toxic to the person who is not. But to each their own. It sounds like you should talk to a therapist or leave the relationship. Story 51. My wife is a nurse. It nearly killed her and put her in a psychiatric hospital for a few weeks last year. She finally quit and found a different type of job. Unfortunately, that is the only real solution for the situation. She has to find a different type of employment. The hospitals are terrible. They will harm their own staff, and it means nothing to them. Story 52. You might just not be compatible. You are allowed to have bad days. Yes, you should do what you need to take care of yourself, but I disagree about men being the stability like a rock to her waves. That idea is old school and outdated. There will be times your partner cannot be there for you. Maybe friends and support systems instead, but not all the time. It is not easy to date a person with an intense career. Story 53. Don't gaslight yourself, brother. Many people in the world have stressful jobs. That does not excuse them from being emotionally unavailable. My wife is a nurse and she used to and still does to some extent do this. Keep in mind, I was a surgery resident. If any nurse wanted to compare hours and stress, I had it worse. But the point is, my job does not give me an excuse to be emotionally absent. It should not give them one either. Story 54. When either of you get back, do you ask each other how the day was? Is she able to vent to you? I am a nurse and female, and I have found that when I can vent to my significant other, it helps release what happened during my day. We are physically and emotionally exhausted because work is highly demanding. You have to be on alert all the time and think critically. Not only that, we attend to people in their most vulnerable state, and sometimes these patients do not want to be there, so they take it out on us as nurses. If a patient dies, we are expected to move on and just deal with it. It might help to emotionally support each other. Being a man does not mean you have to be strong and not show your emotions. Story 55. My wife and daughter are both nurses. They have both worked in the medical intensive care unit and the burn and trauma intensive care unit. I am a former Army combat medic with several combat deployments, so I can relate to what they do. I am going to get a lot of criticism for this, but it is the truth. This is not exclusive to nurses. No matter what your wife does for work emotionally, outside of extreme situations like the loss of a parent, you will always take the back seat. Her emotional needs will always come first. Many women will say it should not be that way, but that all falls apart the minute they need your emotional support and you do not provide it. You have to seek support and comfort from her on her good days or on her days off. Basically, you have to endure, push through, and deal with it later. Whatever your wife and children are going through always comes before you. When you both have a bad day, you will support her much more than she will support you. You are correct. This is part of being a man, one of the many differences between men and women. With that comes the responsibility to take care of yourself mentally and emotionally, but not at the expense of supporting your wife and children first. Yes, it is hard, but that is the reality. You have to become proficient at self-care and find healthy ways to care for yourself when your wife cannot or will not, such as lifting weights, therapy, friend groups, or video games. To be blunt, it never gets better. You just have to deal with it. Story 56. Not a nurse but a teacher, so a pretty similar situation. I have always had soul-crushing, exhausting jobs in one way or another. We ran into this problem early on and decided to focus on being better. You have to find a way to shed that stress and leave it at work so you and your partner can both happily be together. We do not really talk about work unless something big happens or one of us needs to vent or gain a different perspective. There is no easy way to go about this, but that is all part of being with someone you love. You both must do the hard thing and figure out a way to support each other. As I always say, it should never be you versus your partner. It is you and your partner versus the problem. It takes a conscious effort to recognize when you are bringing stress to the table, but that is what must be done. Of course, there will be times when the load is just heavier for one person. There have been times when school has been particularly rough for her, and I have had to step up and help. There have been times when my job has been particularly rough, and she finds a way to step up and help. If we are both having bad days, we order a pizza, relax, and watch some TV or play some video games. Sometimes we just walk around the store for a distraction or go for a hike if the weather permits. In the worst moments, we go have a nice meal somewhere and get lost in each other. It requires effort from both of you to figure out a plan of what to do. Story 57. First off, marry a nurse. They are, for the most part, amazing human beings. My wife works 13-hour shifts as a nurse practitioner in obstetrics, actually a nurse midwife, and was previously an obstetrics nurse. The challenging part about being in a relationship with a nurse is you have to step up your game on their workdays. I do not count on sex, and I make dinner. After dinner, I do all the cleanup as well. You also have to listen to them decompress. They literally get exhausted at work. In some areas, they get assaulted or harassed by patients. Shut up, listen, and validate them. There are some really cool things. If they are licensed practical nurses or registered nurses, there are countless opportunities for advancement, many of which employers will pay for. There are also some less demanding jobs available. If you are into travel, that is cool too. She can take a travel nursing job and either focus on earning more money or going to a cool destination. For a while, we were considering her doing a job in Guam. I would get to be a scuba diver bum. Or let's say you want to stay put but travel to other places. If you have paid time off, she does too because she can arrange her schedule so you can travel. If you need extra cash, she can pick up extra shifts. Working additional jobs is very common, and a nurse could have 2 or 3 jobs, one main one and others as needed. In some ways, nursing is a really cool career, but in others, it is quite difficult. It takes a very special person to be good at it. When I am not stepping up my game, and even sometimes when I am, she shows me so much love and support it makes everything worthwhile. Together we have built an amazing family and have a lot of fun together. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.